I used to believe there was no safer place than my mother's arms. That was before I heard her whispering to my newborn daughter in the dark, whispering things no mother should ever say. My name is Delaney Foster. I'm 28 years old, and 3 weeks ago, I gave birth to my daughter, Juniper. She's everything to me. Tiny and pink and perfect, with these big blue eyes that always seem like they're looking right into your soul. After a rough labor and an emergency C-section, I was struggling. My body was healing, I hadn't slept in days, and I couldn't stop crying for reasons I didn't even understand. The weight of being responsible for this tiny life was overwhelming. My husband, Cole, was doing everything he could to help, but he just started working double shifts at the plant, trying to cover the extra expenses now that I was on unpaid leave. That left me alone most of the day and more than half the night. I was exhausted and vulnerable, and that's exactly when my mother called. "You need rest," she said. "Let me come take care of you both. I'll be quiet, I'll stay out of your way. I just want to help." I hesitated. My relationship with my mom, Meredith, had always been complicated. She wasn't cruel, not outright, but there was a sharpness to her love, a way of turning kindness into guilt. She had this calm, smiling way of controlling every room she walked into. Still, I wanted to believe she'd changed, and honestly, I was too tired to say no. She arrived with a suitcase full of folded clothes and organic teas, and this confident air like she already belonged. She kissed me on the forehead, scooped up Juniper, and said, "Let Grandma take care of everything now." At first, I was grateful. She made meals, folded laundry, and rocked Juniper so I could nap. But I started noticing things, little things. The way she never asked permission to pick up my baby, she just did. How she insisted on doing all the nighttime feeds, telling me I needed to sleep more, that my milk supply could wait. It wasn't said cruelly, but something about the way she talked about me felt dismissive, like I was in the way of her bonding with Juniper. Then the whispering started. The first time I heard it, I was half awake. I'd passed out on the couch in the living room while Cole was working his overnight shift. I remember my eyes blinking open at 2:17 a.m. I heard soft creaking from the nursery, and then a gentle voice, my mother's voice, whispering. I couldn't make out the words, just a steady rhythm like she was reciting something under her breath. I told myself it was just baby talk, comforting sounds, nothing weird. I pulled the blanket up and drifted back to sleep, but then it happened again and again. Always around the same time, always just soft enough that I couldn't catch the exact words. When I brought it up the next morning, she laughed. "Delaney, honey, you must have been dreaming. You're so sleep-deprived, you poor thing." She said it with a smile, stroking my hair like I was a child again, and for a moment, I believed her. Maybe I was imagining it. I hadn't had more than 3 consecutive hours of sleep in weeks, but something in me didn't feel right. I started waking up in the middle of the night, not to the sound of my daughter crying, but to silence. Too much silence. Juniper was always asleep when I got to her room. The baby monitor, which I swore I'd left on, was turned off. The door, which I kept closed, was slightly ajar. And my mother. Already back in bed with her door closed, like nothing had happened, I told myself I was paranoid, that this was postpartum anxiety, and I just needed rest. But deep down, I knew what I'd heard, and I couldn't unhear the feeling behind it. There was something wrong, something off. My mother didn't just sound affectionate. She sounded possessive, not toward me, but toward Juniper. That was the night I made the decision. If no one believed me, if even I was starting to question myself, I needed proof. I needed to know if I was imagining things, or if the woman I trusted with my baby's life was saying things in the dark she didn't want me to hear. So I bought a small voice recorder, cheap, discreet, and easy to hide under the crib mattress. I set it up just before bedtime, heart pounding, hands shaking, and then I waited. I didn't know what I would hear when I played it back the next morning, but I never imagined it would make me drop the recorder on the floor in shock, because what I heard changed everything. I didn't expect motherhood to feel so fragile. After Juniper was born, everything shifted. My body didn't feel like mine anymore. My home, once peaceful, was suddenly filled with crying, bottles, spit up, and the constant pressure to be on all the time. I had read the books, I had made the checklists, I thought I was ready. But no one tells you how quiet the house feels at 3 in the morning when you're rocking a screaming newborn and wondering if you're already failing. The day we brought Juniper home from the hospital, the snow was just starting to fall. Cole drove slowly through the winding Maine back roads, one hand gripping the steering wheel, the other steadying the car seat beside him. I sat in the back staring down at her. She was wrapped in a soft yellow blanket, her tiny fingers twitching, her lips forming little O's as she dreamed. We walked into the house together, and everything felt different. The air seemed thinner. Every creak of the floor felt louder. I stood in her nursery, staring at the crib, overwhelmed by the fact that she would be sleeping there, that I was responsible for this life, permanently, completely. The first few days were a blur. Feedings every 2 hours, diaper changes that felt never-ending. Cole helped as much as he could, but he had to return to work almost immediately. We couldn't afford time off. His company doesn't offer paternity leave, and our savings had already been stretched thin from the hospital bills. He worked long shifts, sometimes overnight, driving forklifts at a freezing warehouse outside town. He came home bone-tired, eyes bloodshot, apologizing as he kissed me goodnight while I stayed up for another feeding. He did everything he could, and I was grateful, but I still felt so alone. No one prepares you for how isolating early motherhood can be. About a week in, I broke down. Juniper had been crying for 3 hours straight. Nothing soothed her. I walked her around the living room, bouncing, rocking, humming, crying with her. My arms were aching. My stitches throbbed. My shirt was soaked in milk, and I had no idea when I last showered. I sat down on the kitchen floor and just wept. That night, I called my mom. I hadn't planned to. Our relationship was tense, always had been. She was strict growing up. Not outwardly abusive, but cold when I needed warmth and controlling in ways that left long-lasting scars. As a teenager, I used to keep a packed duffel bag in my closet just in case I ever got the courage to run away. But she wasn't cruel. She wasn't a monster, and I didn't want to be prideful. Maybe, I thought, time had changed her. "Mom," I said through tears, "I don't know if I can do this." She didn't hesitate. "I'll come tomorrow," she said. "Don't worry about a thing, honey. You just focus on healing. I'll take care of the rest." True to her word, she arrived the next morning. She looked the same as always. Neatly curled blonde hair, crisp coat, soft pink lipstick. She brought groceries, casseroles, herbal teas, and a bag full of baby clothes that still had the tags on. She took one look at me, hugged me tighter than she had in years, and told me everything was going to be okay. At first, she was amazing. She cooked full meals, folded laundry, rocked Juniper while I napped. She seemed calm and confident, like someone who'd done this before and wasn't fazed by the chaos. I remember thinking maybe this was how we'd finally repair things. Maybe Juniper would be the bridge between us. But that hope didn't last long. The first thing I noticed was how often she picked up Juniper without asking. She would swoop in mid-cry, even if I was halfway across the room to soothe her myself. "Let Grandma handle this," she'd say, with a tone that sounded loving but also final. Then came the feeding suggestions. She told me I should stop breastfeeding and just do bottles, that it would be easier for everyone, including me. She said my body needed rest, that I was pushing myself too hard. She said it with a smile, but there was something under her voice, something that didn't feel like concern. She started putting Juniper to bed herself every night. At first, it felt helpful. I was so tired, but over time I realized I was barely spending those quiet, late-night moments with my daughter. I missed the way she curled against my chest when she was sleepy. I missed her eyes fluttering closed to the sound of my voice. Those moments belonged to me, but my mother was taking them. Cole didn't see it. He was grateful for the help, relieved to see me sleeping more, eating better. When I tried to bring it up, he said, "She's just trying to help, Lainey." "Isn't this what you wanted?" I didn't know how to explain it, but something about her help didn't feel like help anymore. It felt like a takeover, like she wasn't just caring for Juniper, she was claiming her. Quietly, deliberately. I wanted to believe I was overthinking it, that I was just hormonal, tired, paranoid. But deep down, I knew the truth. Something wasn't right. And the more I let my mother into our lives, the more it felt like I was disappearing from them. It started with whispers. The first time I truly heard it, I had fallen asleep on the couch, still wearing the same leggings from the day before. Juniper had finally gone down for the night, and my mother had insisted on handling the bedtime routine. "You sleep," she said, placing a warm blanket over my shoulders. "I've got her." When I woke up, it was dark outside. The house was still. I checked my phone. It was just past 2 a.m. That's when I heard it. Low murmuring from the direction of the nursery. I sat up, straining to hear. The sound was faint, like someone speaking under their breath. I couldn't make out the words. I stood, walked silently to the hallway, and stopped outside Juniper's room. The door was open a few inches. The nightlight was off. I pressed my hand against the doorframe and leaned in. Inside, my mother was rocking Juniper slowly, whispering something in a sing-song voice. "You're okay. You're with me now. I'll never let anyone take you." Her voice was barely audible, but the words were clear. They didn't sound like something you'd say to soothe a crying baby. They sounded like a promise. I stepped back, confused. I wanted to walk in and take my daughter, but I didn't move. I just stood there, frozen. Then I turned around and went back to the couch. I told myself I was exhausted, and maybe I'd misheard her. The next morning, I asked her casually if Juniper had been fussy in the night. "No, not at all," she said, pouring coffee into my mug. "She slept like an angel." I said nothing. That day, things felt different. I watched her more closely. She never left Juniper alone, even for a moment. When I held her, my mother hovered. When I tried to dress her, she insisted I was doing it wrong. Her voice stayed sweet, her tone stayed warm, but her hands kept taking over. When I picked Juniper up and she reached for my mother instead of me, I felt something twist in my chest. It wasn't jealousy, it was fear. Fear that I was losing my daughter, not to illness or accident, but to the woman who raised me. I tried to talk to Cole about it that night. He had just gotten home from a 13-hour shift and was sitting at the kitchen table, boots still on, head in his hands. "She's crossing lines," I said softly. "She's not just helping, she's taking over." Cole sighed. "She's doing a lot, Delaney. I mean, if it weren't for her, you'd be falling apart. You were falling apart." I hated how reasonable that sounded. He wasn't wrong, but he wasn't seeing it the way I did. "She's saying things to Juniper," I said. "Weird things, possessive things. I heard her whispering last night." "Whispering what?" I hesitated. I wasn't even sure I could repeat it without sounding crazy. Stuff like, "You're with me now. I'll never let anyone take you." Things like that. He frowned, but it was a tired, unconvinced kind of concern. "She's your mom, Laney. I don't think she'd say anything to hurt the baby. Maybe she was just tired. Maybe you were." I nodded, pretending to let it go, but inside I was unraveling. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening. Around 2 a.m., I heard it again. The same whispers. The creak of the rocking chair. I crept to the hallway. The door was open again. The nightlight was off again. My mother was sitting in the dark, whispering to my baby. Her words soaked in something I didn't recognize anymore. She was claiming her. In the days that followed, things escalated. I started finding little things out of place. Bottles I knew I had washed were gone. The baby monitor was unplugged in the middle of the night. Juniper's sleep schedule was completely reversed. And when I tried to fix it, my mother told me I was being selfish. "She needs stability," she said. "You're too anxious. You're making her nervous." When I told her I wanted to take Juniper to the park alone, she said it was too cold. When I bundled her up anyway, I found the stroller's wheels mysteriously locked up. I tried to convince myself it was just wear and tear, but something didn't feel right. It wasn't just Juniper I was losing. I was losing control of my own home, my voice, my place as her mother, and still, no one believed me. I tried once more to talk to Cole. I showed him the baby monitor log. I told him about the door being open every night. He rubbed his eyes and said, "Laney, you're not sleeping. You're hormonal. Your mom isn't trying to steal our child. She's trying to help." That was the moment I knew I was on my own. If I wanted to protect Juniper, I had to trust myself. I didn't need permission. I needed proof. The morning after I tried to talk to Cole, I walked into the nursery and found the crib sheet changed. I hadn't done it. I was sure of that. I hadn't even been in the nursery since the day before. And yet the pattern was different. The blankets rearranged and the pacifier Juniper never used was lying in the center of the mattress. That small, insignificant item, one we'd put away weeks ago, felt like a warning, or maybe a message. I stood there, holding Juniper against my chest, looking down at her crib and wondering what else I had missed. I tried to shake it off, but the doubt only grew stronger. Later that afternoon, my mother told me to rest again. She was holding Juniper and humming softly, her voice syrupy and low. "You're so tired, sweetheart. Let me take her for a while. You need sleep. You're not yourself lately." I forced a smile and nodded. I didn't have the energy to argue. I went into my bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the floor with my back against it. I didn't cry, I didn't panic. I just sat there and thought. If she was whispering things to Juniper in the dark, then I needed to hear them. If she was saying anything that proved she was trying to take my daughter away from me, I needed more than my memory. I needed something no one could deny. That night, after my mother went to bed and Cole left for work, I opened my laptop and ordered a voice recorder. Small, portable, designed for note-taking, but perfect for what I needed. I paid extra for next-day delivery and cleared a space under the crib mattress where I could hide it. When the package arrived, I opened it in the laundry room behind closed doors. The recorder was smaller than I expected, barely the size of my palm. I turned it on, checked the audio quality, and slipped it into a thin cloth case to muffle the sound of any movement. I waited until bedtime. My mother followed the usual routine. She fed Juniper, sang her lullaby, and carried her into the nursery. "I'll rock her until she's out," she said. "You go relax. Watch something. You deserve a break." I nodded again, pretending to be calm. Once I heard the rocking chair creak, I quietly stepped into the nursery, knelt by the crib, and slid the recorder under the mattress, just beneath the fitted sheet. I left the nightlight on. I wanted to see if she'd turn it off again. Then I left the room. I sat in the hallway for nearly 2 hours. Every 30 minutes, I crept to the corner near the door, just out of sight, and listened. Her voice rose and fell in that same rhythm. Humming, whispering. Never loud enough to understand from outside, but always steady. I didn't go to bed that night. I stayed on the couch until she eventually came out of the nursery, carrying the empty bottle and humming to herself. She didn't see me watching her from the shadows. The next morning, I waited until she went to the store. "I'll grab some more formula," she said as she grabbed her coat. "We're almost out." She wasn't wrong, but I had stocked up. Still, I smiled and thanked her like nothing was wrong. As soon as I heard her car pull out of the driveway, I ran to the nursery. Juniper was asleep in her bassinet, peaceful. I crouched next to the crib, lifted the mattress, and pulled out the recorder. My hands were shaking. I sat down on the floor, right there in the nursery, took a deep breath, and pressed play. For the first few seconds, all I heard were normal sounds. The creak of the chair, Juniper breathing softly, my mother singing the lullaby she always used. Her voice was gentle, calm. Too calm. Then came the whispering. "You don't need her. I'm right here. I'll always be here." The sound of a kiss. "She doesn't understand you the way I do. She doesn't deserve you." I stopped breathing. There was a pause in the recording, just a faint rustling. "You'll be mine soon, I promise." She said it like she was making a vow. "You'll never have to leave me again." I felt my entire body go cold. My fingers went numb. The recorder slid from my hand and hit the hardwood floor with a hollow thud. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just picked it back up, held it tight, and walked to the living room with my heart pounding in my ears. I played it again. I needed to be sure. Every word hit harder than the last. This wasn't exhaustion. This wasn't my imagination. She was trying to take my child, and now I had proof. Now, I sat in the living room with the recorder in my lap and Juniper sleeping on my chest, stunned by what I had just heard. My heart was beating so fast, it hurt. I didn't know whether to scream, run, or collapse. I just kept hearing her voice, her calm, measured whisper in the dark. "She doesn't deserve you. You'll be mine soon." Every part of me wanted to storm into the kitchen and tear the truth out of her, but I forced myself to wait. I needed Cole. I needed someone else to hear it, to know I wasn't making this up. I called him. He answered on the third ring, his voice groggy with sleep from his break room cot. "I need you to come home. Right now," I said. "What happened? Is Juniper okay?" "She's safe. Just come home. I'll explain everything when you get here." The urgency in my voice must have shaken him because he didn't argue. He said he'd be there in 20 minutes. While I waited, I changed Juniper's diaper, packed a small bag of her essentials, and placed the recorder in an envelope marked with the date and time. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was preparing. If my mother had crossed the line I believed she had, I needed to be ready for what came next. She returned from the store just as Cole pulled into the driveway. I watched her walk in, smiling like everything was normal, carrying a bag of groceries in one arm and a bouquet of daisies in the other. "I picked these up to brighten the kitchen," she said. Cole walked in behind her, jaw clenched, not saying a word. My mother turned, surprised to see him. "Oh, Cole, you're home early." He looked at me. I nodded. "Sit down, Meredith," I said, my voice steady. She blinked, still holding the flowers. "What's going on?" I walked over to the table, took the recorder from the envelope and set it down between us. "I recorded you last night," I said. "While you were rocking Juniper. I heard what you said to her." Her expression didn't change immediately. She placed the flowers gently on the counter and straightened her sleeves. "I don't know what you think you heard, but—" I pressed play. The recording played in full. The lullaby, the hush of Juniper's breathing, then her voice, soft but crystal clear. "You don't need her. I'm right here. You'll be mine soon. She doesn't deserve you." By the time it ended, the room was silent. Cole stood behind me, still and stunned. My mother sat at the table, unmoving. "Why would you say that to my daughter?" I asked. She looked down, then back up. Her expression wasn't angry. It wasn't apologetic either. It was something worse. Justification. "You were breaking down, Delaney. You weren't eating. You weren't sleeping. You kept forgetting feedings. You don't know what you're doing." "I'm her mother," I said, my voice rising. "You were supposed to help, not take over. You were supposed to support me, not undermine me." Her eyes narrowed slightly, and she folded her hands together. "I was protecting her. You're not strong, Delaney. You've never been strong. You needed me." "No," I said. "You needed control. You always have. But this ends now." Cole stepped forward, jaw tight. He looked at her for a long moment before speaking. "You need to leave. Today. Now." She scoffed. "I raised you, Delaney. I kept you alive when your father walked away. I gave up everything." "You raised me in fear," I snapped. "You taught me that love was something I had to earn. That's not what I want for Juniper." She stood up slowly. "You're making a mistake." "No," I said. "Letting you in was the mistake." She stared at me, then looked at Juniper, asleep in my arms. For the first time, I saw something crack in her expression. Not guilt, not sadness, loss. The realization that she wasn't going to get what she wanted. She didn't fight us after that. She packed her things in silence. I watched from the nursery window as she loaded her car and drove off without looking back. I held Juniper all night. I kept the recorder in my hand like a weapon, even though I didn't need it anymore. I had the truth, and that truth had set something in me free. The next morning, I made an appointment with a lawyer to file a restraining order. I called a therapist. I told Cole I wasn't going to pretend this didn't happen. He nodded. "We're with you, both of us." Later that week, I wrote down everything I remembered from my own childhood, all the small manipulations I had ignored, the power plays disguised as love. My mother had never changed. I just stopped noticing how much she still needed to own the people around her. But this time, she would never own my daughter. Juniper belongs to a home built on safety and real love, and I finally understood what it means to protect her. After my mother left, the house felt different. Lighter in some ways, empty in others. The silence that followed her departure wasn't peaceful at first. It was unsettling. I kept expecting to hear her footsteps in the hallway or her voice outside Juniper's door. For days, I found myself listening for her at night, the same way I had when she was whispering in the dark. Only this time, there was nothing, just the hum of the baby monitor and Juniper's soft breathing. I didn't sleep much that first week. Not because I was afraid she would come back, but because I had to relearn how to be alone in my own home. I had to reclaim the space she had quietly taken over. The nursery felt foreign. The chair she had rocked Juniper in still creaked when I walked by. I almost threw it out, but I stopped myself. Not everything she touched had to be poisoned. Some things could be reset. I started small. I moved the crib to the other side of the room. I bought a new nightlight, one shaped like a little sun, and turned it on every night just for me. I wanted light in that room, warm, bright, unmistakable light. I threw away the bottles she had bought and picked out ones I liked. I took back the routine, the late-night feedings, the rocking and singing. I didn't hand off my motherhood anymore. I owned it. The recording stayed in a drawer in the bedroom. I couldn't bring myself to delete it. Not yet. Having it made me feel safer. It reminded me I hadn't imagined any of it. It was real. And I had trusted myself when no one else did. The restraining order was approved within a few days. My lawyer didn't even flinch when I played the audio for her. She told me I had done the right thing, that people like my mother often wear masks even their own children can't see until it's too late. I nodded, but hearing someone else say it out loud still made it real in a way I wasn't ready for. Cole stepped up in a way I hadn't expected. He apologized, not just once, but over and over. "I should have listened," he said. "I thought you were tired. I didn't see what she was doing." I told him the truth. I didn't want to believe it either. I've spent most of my life explaining away the way she treated me. It took losing control of my own child to finally wake up. We started therapy together. At first, it was just for me, but Cole wanted to come too. We talked about trust, boundaries, and what it meant to protect our daughter, not just from strangers, but from people who claim to love her while undermining us. We created a plan, a united front. No more unannounced visits, no more quiet permission for things that made us uncomfortable. Most importantly, I began to heal. The biggest change came in how I saw myself. I had spent so long believing that asking for help meant I was weak, that needing rest or support made me unfit to be a mother. My mom had fed that idea my whole life. That strength meant doing everything alone and never complaining. But that's not what strength looks like. Real strength is protecting your child even when your hands are shaking. It's trusting your instincts when no one else will. It's choosing your baby's safety over anyone else's comfort, even if that person is your own parent. One night, a few weeks after everything happened, I held Juniper in my arms as she drifted off to sleep. The house was quiet. Cole was reading in the next room. The windows were frosted from the cold, and the soft glow of her sun-shaped nightlight made the walls look golden. I looked down at her tiny face, the same one that had stared up at me in the hospital, and I whispered something back. "You're safe now. I've got you. No one's taking you from me." She stirred, sighed, and settled deeper into my arms. That night, I didn't wake up to whispers. I woke up once around 2 a.m. out of habit, checked the monitor, and smiled when I saw her curled up peacefully. I didn't hear voices. I didn't expect danger. I just felt calm. For the first time since she was born, I believed I could do this. Not perfectly, not without mistakes, but with enough love, enough awareness, and enough courage to know when something isn't right. Motherhood isn't about being flawless. It's about showing up again and again, even when you're scared, even when no one else understands why. If there's one thing I know now, it's this. My love for my daughter doesn't need to be proven to anyone. And I will never again let someone else define what it means to be her mother, not even my own. If this story connected with you in any way, I want you to know your instincts matter. Whether you're a new parent, someone healing from a toxic family dynamic, or just learning to trust your own voice again, you're not alone. You're allowed to protect your peace, your child, and your life, even when it means drawing boundaries with the people closest to you. Thank you for listening to my story. If it moved you, please like this video so more people can find it. Share it with someone who might need to hear it. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think or share your own experience. And if you want to hear more true stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And I'm so glad you're here. Until next time, stay safe, stay strong, and stay true to yourself.